Welcome to the STEM Week Alumni Panel for the College of DuPage. My name is Maureen Dunne, and I myself is an alum of the Honors Program at COD. I received my PhD in the Cognitive Sciences from the University of Oxford, and professionally, I've been a technology executive and entrepreneur. I'm currently the chair of the College of DuPage Board of Trustees. I'm really honored to be here, and thank you so much for joining us today. Before I ask each of you some questions about your experiences, it would be great if you would each first briefly introduce yourselves.
My name is Jake Slinkman. I graduated from COD in 2014 with an associate's in science. I currently work at Now Foods as a QA specialist, and I am also teaching biology at Elmhurst University.
I'm Josie. I graduated in 2018, and now I'm a roboticist at an agricultural robotics startup down in Champaign.
And I'm Erna Gavandian. I transferred from COD in 2012 to IIT, where I got my bachelor's degree in computer science. And I now hold a master's degree in public policy from Northwestern University. I work at Argonne National Laboratory as an energy systems risk analyst.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'm sure you each have very interesting backgrounds and stories. So tell me, actually, the first question I have is I just want to learn a little bit more about your journey in starting your STEM education at College of DuPage. I guess we could go in the same order that you introduced yourselves.
My journey to COD was maybe a little unconventional. I originally didn't feel like I wanted to attend a community college at first. I didn't know if it would be challenging enough for me. What ended up happening was I got the presidential scholarship, which I was very thankful for. I was part of the honors program as well. It was a fantastic experience for me, and also extremely challenging. I learned really quickly that at COD you really have to step up to the plate, and I had to apply myself really hard. But the rewards were really great. So that was unexpected, but fruitful.
So I knew I wanted to go into mechanical engineering, and my plan was to go to University of Illinois. But my dad and I found this engineering pathways program at COD that transferred to U of I, but you still had to kind of apply there. So I ended up going to COD because it just seemed way more financially responsible than going straight to U of I. And it didn't seem like I was going to lose any quality of education. And then going to COD, it's very clear that I didn't. I had some of the best professors that I've ever had there too. So yeah, so I graduated, and going to U of I was a very smooth transition.
That's great. I think it's so far both of your stories I think are probably really helpful for those students maybe even in high school that are considering attending the college for STEM. Would you like to go next, Erna?
Sure. So I went to COD as soon as maybe a month or two after immigrating to the US with my family. And I didn't know what I wanted to do at all. I mean, new country, new everything. So I enrolled in the graphic design. It was called advertisement and graphic design, I think at the time, program. And it was a fantastic program. I actually learned a lot, but eventually I just kind of realized that was not my calling, and that, I probably felt a little bit more comfortable if I took a few more math classes, a few more physics classes. So I decided to kind of reevaluate my situation a couple of years down the road, and decided to switch majors to computer science. And that has been a fantastic journey. It got me my first scholarship, actually I did receive scholarships as well, which I'm very grateful for. And then my first internship at Argonne National Laboratory, that was very much encouraged by our physics professor. And that's, how I ended up being where I am right now. And it's just been a fantastic start to a great journey.
That's wonderful. Great. So the next question I have is maybe elaborate a little bit about how your time at COD how do you think it helped prepare you for the rest of your education and career?
For me, split this into two different groups. So class-wise, I felt like it prepared me really well. I transitioned from COD into Cedarville University in Ohio, where I got a cell bio major. And going through those classes, I was so thankful that my profs at COD pushed me so hard, and that I learned so much and really applied myself there. I was really thankful for that because the hard sciences are really hard. So I was just really glad for that. Then on the other side of the coin, work-wise, I was able to get an internship through one of the connections that my biology teachers had. So I got to work as a lab tech at a nearby lab, Grace Analytical Labs, where I did chem and microbiology for them. And so just getting my foot in the door earlier than most people and getting that experience earlier than most people do really put me ahead in terms of just practical skills, which I was really thankful for down the road, because it helped me get the job that I have now.
I feel as though like the education that I got at COD was very, very high quality. So the professors were there and they didn't have to research. So they were very, very focused on making sure that the classroom experience was great. And since the classes were really small, they also gave us a lot of attention as well. So I feel like I got enough attention to really delve into each topic, which just made like the rest of school easier and is surprisingly applicable to things that I do at my job. Like I use basic physics very often, and knowing that very well is very useful. The other thing that I started at COD that I had never done before was robotics. I started doing robotics my freshman year, and like there wasn't any robotics at my high school or middle school. So it was kind of a new experience for me. And the professors were pretty patient with us. They helped us get a machine shop course so we could get more hands-on experience with like big machinery to help us actually make the robots. We did several robotics competitions, and one of them was a national competition that we did fairly well at.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was a great experience. And we kind of had great mentors throughout the whole process that really helped me stay with it even when it was very challenging and help us succeed. So yeah. And so now I work in robotics. I never would have thought that I would. Yeah. But here I am.
Right. And you first got exposed to it at COD. So that's wonderful. What about you, Erna?
I mean, it's really the same things that Jake and Josie already went over, you know, the robustness of the education itself, the sense of community, the encouragement, tons of encouragement we got from the professors, as well as the administrative staff, you know, in the financial aid office and, you know, everywhere all across the college, I thought was really, you know, this very tight-knit community that it was really missed, you know, when I had to leave it behind and move on. So, yeah, obviously giving my first internship that turned into my career, and just, you know, can't say enough good things.
That's wonderful. Yeah, and actually, the next question I had, both Jake and Erna, you both touched on a little bit. I was curious. What unique opportunities you may have been involved in at COD, you know, like the student clubs, when I guess Josie mentioned the robotics club. So, but was there other experiences you had, other internships, study abroad experiences, clubs that outside the classroom that you thought were unique that really helped shape your career?
Yeah, so for me, going through the honors program, a requirement is that you take a leadership development. So that's one of the classes that's required for that. Leadership development was huge in terms of how I see leaders now and how I lead both at work and when I teach. I remember something that impacted all of us in the class is the idea of servant leadership. and just having that heart for the people that you're leading, and just learning about that style. And then another component of that class was you actually had to go out and get a certain number of hours serving. So for instance, I got to work at a food pantry that was 2 minutes down the road from my house that I didn't even know was there before. So for a number of weeks that was required. And then after that as well, just because I enjoyed it so much, we got to serve those who were maybe down and out or going through a hard time, and just being able to show compassion to them. I think in STEM, we think a lot with our brains, and I think living it out of your heart as well is such a big focus. So I love that COD stressed that, and that we got the opportunity to be a little more well-rounded in that regard. So that was just a lot of fun.
That's very cool. Thank you for sharing that.
I think my the biggest experience I had, well, it wasn't the biggest, but one that really stuck out in memory was actually my job I had at COD as a tutor, a peer tutor, and it really taught me a lot of things. But one of them it was that it really teaches you patience and humility, and it exposes you to different challenges that students have, both on academic performance as well as some other barriers that might be in their way of getting the education that they would like to get. And that really, I think, gave way to my passion for just supporting education in general. So today, I always, every summertime I mentor students that come into Argonne. I always have interns. And I really enjoy, the time I spend with them, and teaching them not only, obviously that at work they don't, that they don't come here for coursework, right? But, just sharing experiences that I think will be applicable to their professional lives in the future. I think, that passion, I think, really, I wouldn't have known, I think, that I have it. Maybe I would have, but, the job I had as a peer tutor at the tutoring center was, I think, a key part of that.
That's great. So that experience helped at least bring out of you this passion that you discovered. That's really wonderful. What about you, Josie?
My first internship was actually with Erna. She created some internship spots at Argonne to fill with COD students. I feel like I learned professionalism there. It was the first true office job type internship, and also it exposed me to a bunch of different science fields, and I got to explore the lab that way as well, and I learned a lot there. And then the other thing is, at COD I had leadership with robotics and the engineering and tech club, which was, engineering is a very male dominated field, and sometimes it's hard to really hold your own at the table. And I've come across this over and over again. And I feel like this has helped me with, especially my current job. I love everybody that I work with, but, being there at the table, you need to kind of be a leader to be with it. You want to have a vision for where you want to go, and be able to articulate that, and be able to say it when you're surrounded by people who know a ton and have grad degrees and are extremely smart. So, and I felt that way back in COD with kids that had done robotics since they were preschoolers. But you learn it, right? You just have to get the experience, and that was where I got most of mine. So
that's great. Yeah, I having been a tech entrepreneur myself, which is, there's a lot more women than there was 10 years ago, but we could still be doing better. And so I can relate to that. And I love that how Erna and Josie, how you're both connected, sort of as one COD alum, sort of been helping another. I think that's really a great story in itself. So let's see, I've got just two more questions for you. the next one is what would you say is the most rewarding part of your employment or current continuing education career?
I'll go with my job at Elmhurst, where I teach as adjunct faculty, just like 2 nights a week. But one of the most rewarding things for me is seeing ideas click with students. That's a really cool thing for me, just because I get super passionate about biology. I always have, and I always will. But just writing stuff on the board and seeing people get into it a little bit, that's really rewarding for me. Another cool little moment that happened was I have a slight stutter. I've had it my whole life. So in the first night of class, I was just honest about it. Hey, it'll come up. You'll hear me stutter every now and then. And a student came up to me next class and said, hey, I've had a stutter my whole life too. And that meant a lot to me, that you were just so honest and open about the whole thing. So I think just encouraging students in a well-rounded way and seeing them succeed is, that's the most rewarding part for me.
That's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
For me, the most rewarding part is definitely the creativity that I get to use all the time. Like, I get to be a part of the design of the robots that we're doing, the testing, and the whole line of coming up with the idea to making it an actual thing. And there's just a host of problem solving that comes from point A to point B. And I get the responsibility to get there. And I really love having the ability to be in charge of that process and do the problem solving.
It's wonderful.
For me, I would say working at a lab where we have 3,500 employees, of them about 1,400 research and development staff that I'm one of, and every one of them is doing something different. Just having exposure to all these different things that are going on and being involved in different things. I didn't anticipate, a year ago, I didn't know what I was going to be doing this year. And, I don't think I know what I'm going to be doing next year, if the trend continues. There are so many different areas of focus, and you can really, if you want to, be involved in a wide array of things, get involved in them, and it really expands your horizons. It's really amazing how how many problems there are, and how many problems are being solved, and how many questions are still open that we don't even think about. Every day I feel like I learn something new, and I think that's really one of the most rewarding parts.
Thank you. I was, I'm just listening to each of you talk about your experiences and stories. It just, each of you are so amazing. You have, you're so accomplished. Each one of you are so accomplished and have such unique stories. So it's exciting for me to hear about how, you started at COD and how you got to where you are now. And we're running out of time here, so that I just have one final question. Do you have any recommendations for what interested individuals might do to gain greater exposure to opportunities in STEM-related fields?
So I would say to go wide with what you're doing, find what you're passionate about for sure, but don't be afraid to get some cross training in different fields. Like the lab that I started at first did a lot of chemistry. And I'm certainly not a chemist now, but having that background and that knowledge of what they do in analytical lab or in environmental lab really helps me. So I would say, if you find an opportunity, even if it's adjacent to what you think you want to do full time, jump in, get your hands dirty, and see what you can learn.
That's really good advice, especially when you think about how fast the employment landscape is changing as well. And just, sort of being what kind of what you mentioned, sort of like these CrossFit, trying to be CrossFit in this field. That's great advice.
What I've learned from a lot of the people that I studied with that were really good at what they did was they just found a project or a problem and just decided that they were going to solve it. My friend wanted to build himself something to feed his fish electronically when he went on vacation, or like you just find a problem and then you'll find the way to solve that problem, and you learn everything on the way. So it's kind of hard to say, oh, I'm going to learn SolidWorks, like any CAD program, without having something to CAD. But if you have a goal, it's a lot easier. Well, first of all, you have something to CAD. And secondly, you have like a purpose for doing it. And at least for engineering, I've found that mentality has helped me learn so much more. I always learn way more at internships and clubs because there's an actual goal that I'm trying to get. So
yeah, that's I think amazing advice too. So as an entrepreneur, I think it applies as well as just always there's always problems to solve, and sounds like the more you with what you do, the more you kind of put yourself in situations where you have to problem solve, the better you get at what you do. And then also going back to what we talked about with just the future of the employment landscape, again, these like creative problem solving skills. Some people think of STEM as being very technical, but it sounds like there's such a creative problem solving element to what all of you do. And that's great. What about you, Rona?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll just echo again what my colleagues just said. It's really important to kind of overcome the initial intimidation that somebody might have of a field, of a topic, of even a person. I really there are a couple of sayings that come to mind, right? One of them, if somebody gives you an opportunity, in Richard Branson's words, say yes and then learn how. And then same goes for, if you don't to Josie's point about, creating a solution for something, Albert Einstein said, imagination is more important than knowledge. So, you really, where there's a will, there's a way. And I think just keeping an open mind and being open to new experiences, throwing yourself in there, because there are people, there are resources to lean on, especially today, with the internet, with, connections that you have. You might not think that your classmates are your connections, but they are, right? And eventually they will be also working in different places, and you can call them up, your professors and everybody else. So nothing to be afraid of.
That's also great advice, I'm sure. Yeah, so that's wonderful. Thank you so much for participating in this panel. Just as an alum myself, I just really appreciate that you all, stepped up to do this. And I think this to be role models really in the STEM field for people in our district, young people, those, that are considering a STEM career but aren't quite sure. I think this will be really helpful.